Well, hello my friends, we are back again. Today's video is going to be a little bit more of a walkthrough of the schematic and the only remaining problem that I have on this unit. So let's dive right in. So if you look at the schematic, a couple things that I'll let you know about here. So there appears to be three main voltage rails on this amp. So you've got an see if we can get a zoom on that. So you've got an 80 volt rail there, okay? And you have a, down here, a 25 volt rail. And over here you have a 60 volt rail. That's the whole amp, right? So there's your 80, there's your 25, and there's your 60. This is a full wave rectifier with the 80. I believe that's a half wave rectifier, which gets me down to 60 and to 25. Okay? So starting with the 80 volt rail, if you look at my transistors, Q16, Q13, Q10, Q11, Q12, Q14, and Q16, I now have all of those correctly voltaged. So you'll see in the bubbles there, it says 37.8, 0.45. I've gone through and tested every one of those. So my power amplifier section is generally pretty good. I've got everything that I expect within a 20% tolerance. And how do I know that? Because it says it right here. It says the symbol indicates positive DC voltage taken with an 11 mega ohm voltmeter. From the point indicated to chassis ground, voltages may vary 20%. So I'm definitely within tolerance here. Starting with the preamp section, the guitar preamp section, you'll see that we've got 60 volts coming in right there, okay? And it goes to Q1, Q2, and Q3. I have good voltages here too. Everything is within tolerance, and I can plug a guitar in and I can play. That's great, right? But I don't get a lot of volume. So there's still something wrong here, but I can play it and it's relatively clean, so we're making good progress there. Here's where the problem comes in. So if you look at the base preamp, again, you've got your 60 volts coming in, and let me see if I can point this out to you. So you've got your 60 volts coming in, okay? It's going through this resistor, and it's coming right down here to this collector. Over here, I've got 0.60 volts, which I do have when I measure it. This goes to ground to the 0, and on this one, I'm actually getting 11 volts. Right? I'm not getting 24. Matter of fact, if I check this capacitor right here and put a lead, I get a high-pitched squeal, or I pick up a radio station. I kid you not. So what have I done? I've checked all these resistors. I've actually replaced them just to be safe. I've replaced this one. I've replaced this one. I've replaced this. I've also replaced this resistor, this capacitor, all of these. And I'm still getting this under voltage condition. So I have to say to myself, well, what could that be? And next step, I think, for me is going to be to remove Q6 from the circuit, test it, and then see where I am. But just to continue, in the microphone phono preamp section, I'm getting correct voltages here for 7, for 8, and for 9, so no problem there. So the amp is really working with the exception of this bass preamp. And the thing that's interesting is I'm getting fluctuating voltage here. When I throw a meter on this, like I said, I'm getting squeal, I'm getting a radio station, and I'm fluctuating voltage from anywhere from 4 volts to 11 volts. It tells me that something's not right. It could be a latching issue, that this transistor is latching open and closed. I'm not really sure yet. But my next step is going to be to rip this out, test it, and then put a new component in, which is a 2N3859, and see if that corrects the issue. Now, another thing to note here, if you look in the guitar preamp section, it's basically the same layout. 60 volts coming in, going to exactly the same transistor, 24 volts. So I'm getting it on this rail. All right, so I'm getting it in the guitar preamp section. I'm getting 24 volts just fine. Not getting it down here, right? So it's a different section of the board, obviously. But that's where my issue is at the moment, right here. Now, I can further show you this by looking at the voltage charts here. So you'll see here, this is Q12 and this is all the voltages I'm supposed to have. And there's Q6 and Q4. I've checked all those. Q6 is the one that we're talking about right there. Okay. There's 24. That's where I'm getting 11. And if we look at Q3, which is right down here somewhere, right there, there's the other 24 in the guitar preamp section. So I'm getting 24 there, not getting it here in this section. Where is it? I lost it. Not getting it in Q6, that's right. So that's kind of my dilemma at the moment. I've gone through and checked every component that I can possibly check, and I think that's about where I am. So I'm gonna experiment with this transistor right here and see if I can figure out what's happening. The thing that's odd is I'm getting the 0.50 here at the base, and theoretically that should be what turns on the transistor, if I understand this correctly. So it receives the proper voltage at the base, and it latches and turns this on, and yet I'm only getting 11 volts here. So I could have a problem with the transistor, like I said, that it latches on and off. There's some kind of intermittent fault in it. I am getting a good ground here, I've checked that. But I'm thinking my problem sits within this component. So I'm going to stop the video, I'm going to go change that component out, and I'll come back and let you know what the difference was. Okay? I'll be back. Well, I've changed out Q6, and I do have different results to report. So what I have now is on the collector of Q6, I now have about 22 volts, which fluctuates down to 14, which is interesting. I also have a high-pitched squeal that comes out of the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at the tone network, and what I mean by the tone network is there's two controls here that that are in the bass preamp section, if you remember on the schematic, and I'll show you that in a second. You've got a tone and a volume. You've also got this you've got this bass boost and this brightness controls. That's these controls here, and you'll notice that there's resistors, and there's a 0.47 cap in there, and there's another one up here. And if we come to this side, there's a number of components here. Here's a 0.22, there's another 0.47. I haven't checked those yet, so I haven't touched those, so I could have an issue with those. Let me pop open the schematic and I'll show you where I'm talking about. Okay, so here we are in the bass preamp section, and you'll see that when the signal comes in through the jack, it goes through this amplification section, and then what it does is it rides up here and it comes into this tone network. Okay, and you'll see right here is my bass boost switch. Here's the tone knob I showed you, right? But the thing that's important to note is it comes through this rail, and it comes here, and it comes all the way along, and it goes up here to a reverb section. But if you look at the dot, it also comes up here, goes up into this power amp section, and also comes over here, and this goes right to the choke that comes out to the speaker. So really, if you think about it, in the bass boost section, there's only one way out. It's right here. So what I should be able to do is put a tone generator right here, which I'm going to be planning on doing, and then I'm going to put a scope and see what I get coming out. Then I should be able to know where my issue is in here. This is all new stuff for me, tone generators and scopes, so I'm still learning as I go along. That's going to be my next step. Okay? I'm going to be away for a couple of days, so it'll probably be a week or so before I post another video, but just wanted to send you guys an update. I'm still learning, guys, still having fun. Oh, and one last thing I want to add. You got to be really careful when you work on this stuff. My friend Don, I'm a junk collector, put up a really cool video about being careful when you work on equipment like this. You have to know what you're doing. You have to be careful. You have to respect it. My friend John from Arkansas says it the best. Electricity is a caged animal looking to get out. This stuff will kill you, guys. And if you're watching this video and thinking about working on amps for the first time, make sure that you know what you're doing before you start poking around. There's lethal voltages in these things. Okay? You have to know what you're doing. You have to know how capacitors work. You have to know about a lot of things. So make sure you be really careful. Okay, with that, I'm going to go off and try to solve my mystery here. But the good news about this being now 22 volts with fluctuation, my guitar channel is extremely loud where it should be. So there's a connection here, and I believe it's right here. If you see, there's the guitar and the preamps and the bass preamp. They both ride the same rails here, right? Out through the power section and out through the speaker. So there's a connection together here. I'm going to find it. And it could be any one of these components bringing this circuit down. So my next step is here. Signal generator. Scope. Check it out. Alright? Alright, thanks everybody. Have a great day. See you soon. This is Ron.